Good morning on this beautiful autumn day. Sending you my love from our little piece of heaven here in Webster. And so I got up bright and early and started doing the little tasks I have to do, especially the proof review of this book that was sent to me by the distributor. And I kind of got sidetracked and got that warm, fuzzy feeling of having a book in hand, like a cool autumn day, pumpkin spice latte or tea. And yeah, I've just been in school for so long and just been so busy at work and stuff that I just haven't had that feeling in a while. I finally started reading again this summer, and I hope some of you are still readers. It's been crazy times. I imagine during the pandemic especially, people started getting back into books while I was studying, but I just can't wait to really just pick up the pace. So I thought I'd just read a little bit from one of my favorite scenes here where you meet some of the characters. And yeah, starting from page 201 right here. So, when they got to Sun, Fia went inside with them. Without the baby attached to her hip, she looked and moved like the kid that she in fact was. One that was possibly rambunctious and definitely witty. It was pitch black inside, but Fio knew that there were candles and matches right by the entrance on a little shelf. She lit 3 candles and held each sideways so that their wax would drip onto little wooden plaques, which she then fixed the candles onto. 2 of the hammocks were lower than the rest and had taken on the forms of their inhabitants, so they moved forward to see which one was Taula's. Taula was asleep in the rainbow-colored one, her arms stretched over her head and both her knees sprawled out with the palms of her feet pressed together. "Sis, sis," Lana Baboye whispered. Taula awoke, blinking slowly and putting her hands up against the light of the candles. "Hey, sis," she replied through a yawn. "Novice and Fio too. Wow, I didn't realize how young you are, Fio." "I'm 11. My mom says I can even have a boyfriend now." But Fio paused as something dawned upon her. "You remembered my name?" Fio asked with her hands over her heart. "Yes, of course," Tala replied. "But you didn't remember my sister's name before." "That's true." Tala folded her arms and nodded. "I guess you were more memorable to me." Taula's words took a moment to sink in. Then Fio blushed and smiled a big toothy smile. "You want to see something cool?" she asked as she skipped over the nearest unoccupied hammock. "Sure, but quietly, please." Tala pointed her nose towards the hammock which still contained the sleeping Amaranoki. Fio faced away from her audience at first, with the hammock in hand. Then she turned around with it so that the hammock cloth crossed around her waist. "Okay, ready?" she asked. "Ready," said Taula. Fio dipped her head forward and did a front flip, using the hammock as a brace. "Wow, very cool, Fio." Taula gently clapped her hands. "Yes, well done," Navis said. "Now watch this." Fio threw her head back, doing a backflip this time. "And you can keep going." Fio executed another front flip, except this time she let herself keep tumbling, legs tucked in. After a dozen dizzying spells, she finally came to a halt and let the hammock unwind from around her. She lay flat on the ground until her eyes uncrossed themselves. "I'm going to try it," Tala said, getting out of her hammock. Fio quickly sat up, still a little wobbly. "No, you won't," she said and laughed. "And why not?" Tala asked with her hands on her hips. Fio thought for a few seconds and said, "I dunno," with a shrug. "Well then, here it goes." Tala took her hammock and wrapped it around her waist in the same way Fio had done, one 360-degree turn that crossed the cloth around her. "Now I just roll forward?" Fio nodded, and Tala went for it. She spun in a flip and popped up head first again. Fio bounced up and down, a big smile on her face, then went over to Tala and gave her a big hug. "What about me? Don't I get a hug?" Lana Baboya asked as she flipped herself on a hammock too. Fio skipped over to her and gave her a hug too. Then Fio, Lana Baboya, and Tala turned to look at Navis with smirks on their faces. It was his turn. "I don't think I can do it," he said. "If anything, my legs are too long. I need to tie the hammocks up higher." "Scaredy cat, Fio said loudly, trying to goad Navis. "Shh, Amarunoki's still sleeping, Tala reminded everyone, but then she added in a whisper, Scaredy cat. Navis rolled his eyes, went over to a hammock, swung forward, and boom! He fell hard, right on his behind. Whoa! Amarunoki awoke shouting, What's going on? Her hair was in disarray, standing up in all directions, and her teeth were bared, making her look positively feral. Theo didn't waste a second. While Amarunoki's eyes were adjusting to the light, she fled to the exit without looking back and was gone like a wisp into the darkness of the jungle. Amarunoki first laid eyes on Navis, still sitting on the ground. The hammock above was swinging wildly. No hanky-panky on my watch, Taula! She shouted. Ama, I'm here behind you, Taula called out. Where? What? You know as well as I do that the fast includes controlling your base desires. Amarunoki continued to shout as she turned to face Taula. Taula walked over to her and made a confused face. What are you talking about? No sex! What in the world? No, I just have some visitors. Theo brought them. Taula waved Lana Bapoye over. Amarunoki glared at Taula and then became pensive. Theo, she's an interesting one. Don't get me started on her mother and sister, though. That family just arrived here recently. Amarunoki was going off on a tangent, but lost her train of thought when she saw Lana Bapoye. Now there's a countenance I haven't seen in a long time. Kunj kaikso, Ranoki-sa, Lana Bapoye said with a bow. Amarunoki drank in the greeting with great pleasure. My name is Lana Bapoye. I have come from Oaql Island. So yeah, we'll stop there. It's gone on for 7 minutes. I'm sorry. And that's the end of the chapter right there. Hope you all enjoyed. I can't wait to get you the release date